There are 7 pickleball tips that as 5-0 players, we really wish we had known earlier because it completely revolutionized our game forever.
We're going to break them down for you so that they can also change your game forever. If you like our content, go ahead and subscribe and let's get right into it.
But before we get started, we want to tell you guys about Bear Mattress, who sponsored this video. Recovery is so essential to performing at your best, and once we switched to Bear Mattress, the difference was obvious. Bear Mattress is a premium fiberglass-free mattress designed specifically to improve your sleep and recovery. Plus, they ship it right to your doorstep for no additional cost. Ours literally showed up in a box. We opened it, rolled it out, and boom, we have a high-quality mattress just like that. And before I ordered my mattress, I took Bear's sleep quiz, which matches you to the perfect fit based on your body type and sleep preferences. And just after owning it for a few weeks, my sleep has never been better. And I'm not the only one who agrees. Bear surveyed over 300 customers, and over 82% said their sleep quality improved, which is why 95% would recommend it to a friend. They also give you free shipping in the US, a 120-night sleep trial, and even a limited lifetime warranty, so you can upgrade your sleep at no risk to you. So if you're ready to sleep better, head to the link in the description with code CRACKED to claim your 40% off right now. That's our special discount you can't find online, so grab it before it's too late.
The first game-changing tip is to aim for people's feet. One of the things that people struggle with is getting the correct height on any shot in pickleball. Either A, you hit too hard and the ball ends up really high over the net and then people can put it away easily, or B, you hit too soft and aim too low and then it goes into the net. A really simple way to fix this is just to think about aiming for people's feet. And there are 3 different shots where this will be really evident. Let's talk about the first one. So Caleb here is going to represent my opponent. Whenever we're in a dinking rally, I like to aim for people's feet. So somewhere right around here. And the reason I do this is because it makes Caleb have to make a decision. Either A, he takes the ball out of the air, right, like this, or B, he has to take a step back and then let the ball bounce and then hit it. But in either of those cases, he's having to make a decision. We call this area the pressurized zone because there's a lot of pressure put on your opponent if you can reliably hit it. The main reason this is good is because it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent, but a secondary reason is because it takes all the thought away from you. Now, instead of thinking about the height of your ball or where you're placing it on this court, trying to make a bunch of different decisions, just hit it at your opponent's feet and dink rallies, and you'll win a lot of points that way. But of course, it's not just in dinking rallies. It can also happen when you're hitting drop shots. When we're at the back of the court trying to hit a drop shot over the net, it's really easy to think about a lot of different things and then mess up your shot. Instead, just aim for your opponent's feet. Really don't even see the net there. Just look for an arcing shot that lands around their feet because it's the exact same thing as dinking. They're gonna have to make a decision. Either A, take it out of the air, or B, let it bounce and take a step backwards. And the third area where this is super important is in your rolls. So when you're up here at the kitchen line and people are hitting drops to you, you want to be trying to roll it or push it to the defender's feet at the midcourt. So let me show you where that is. Imagine I'm the defender now and I'm sitting here. I want your rolls to be landing somewhere around my feet. And this is for 2 reasons. Number 1, just like the other 2 areas, it forces me to make a decision. Either A, take it out of the air, or B, let it bounce and take a step back. But the second reason is because in general, people just aren't low enough. So if you're hitting at their feet, they're going to be standing like this and then having to reach down to get that ball. And that's a lot of movement. And now they're not in an athletic position trying to hit the ball back to you. So you can really just take advantage of people's laziness because they're not getting low enough and just start aiming at their feet. It takes away all the guesswork from you and will definitely give you better results.
The next massive strategy that changed our game in pickleball comes from lobs. If you play pickleball, you're going to eventually get lobbed by your opponent. It's a common strategy to put you off guard and potentially force you to hit an overhead, or maybe even run all the way back to the court and retrieve the ball from deep. But there's one big thing a lot of players miss out on that completely revolutionized how you handle lobs when they come your way. Here's what to do. One of the biggest problems we see when people receive a lob and it goes over their heads is there's discussion between the partners on who should be getting that lob, running back, and making the save. The problem is, 1, returning a lob from deep is incredibly difficult because it requires speed and athleticism, so we need to make that job as easy as possible. So when you're forced to defend a lob, there's one simple rule you need to follow. The player opposite of the ball should be the one who goes and retrieves the lob. There's a couple big reasons this is the case. Let's say a lob is coming over the top of my head over here, and my partner is standing to my right there. If I were to be the one to go retrieve this, I have to 1, track the ball as it's going over my head, which is incredibly difficult, and then I have to run back and make the save, but the distance I have to cover pauses and stops my momentum throughout, making it really tough for me to 1, read the ball, and then 2, actually make the save. But on the other hand, my partner on the right side of the court is able to visualize the ball the whole way through, and also his natural momentum moving cross court in a diagonal motion is going to allow him to retrieve the ball a lot more effectively than I would have been able to. The big thing in this scenario is if I were to go retrieve it, I would have to turn my back to the ball and start running, and that makes me lose track of where it is in space. Whereas my partner is able to stay open as the ball passes by and track it himself the whole way through, giving him much better odds of receiving that lob and actually creating a drop or a drive after it bounces. In this scenario, Shea would already be open to the ball and is able to make great contact because he doesn't have to change direction throughout the swing. But for me, if I have to turn my back, run, then when I decide to make contact, let's say the ball's right here, I have to turn around and then hit the ball, which is just a lot of extra time that I don't need to be using when I could let my partner do most of the work for me because the job is actually easier for them. I know that may sound a little bit complicated, but if you want to keep it incredibly simple, here's the rule. The player opposite of the ball is the one who receives the deep lob. If it goes over your head, it's your partner's job. So communicate that as fast as possible. Tell them go immediately when you see that happening because they may not be aware in the moment that they should be the one going. And then now your defense is going to be much stronger. But the only thing we haven't covered is what should you do after that scenario? Because likely we've just scrambled, we've gotten into a very defensive position. Let's say my partner just recovered the ball cross court right here. What should I be doing as an active partner when I notice he needs to be running back to receive the ball? I'm not going to stand here and open up most of the court for my opponent after he hits probably a weak shot. So what I should do as a smart player is as he's running back, I actually run to the opposite side of the court as fast as I can and get ready to play some defense. We're going to take a step back. We know that we're in a compromised position, so we're going to swap sides on the court and be able to cover the most amount possible. Because odds are we don't hit a perfect shot off of a big return of a lob, meaning we need to be ready for an overhead or a smash and brace ourselves. So step back, be an active partner, and let your partner go get the lob. That's pretty much it. And now you'll become a defensive warrior.
The next tip that changed my game is that the best spot to aim a ball is always the middle. Specifically, we're talking about crossing the net over the middle of it, and this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, the net is lower to the ground in the middle than it is on the sides, so you have a little bit more margin here. But the number two, whenever you have a opponent getting a ball in the middle of the court, their angles that they can attack on are significantly diminished. So just imagine if I was on the far side of the court, I could really attack cross court because this distance between me and the sideline is a lot larger. I can also go down the line pretty easily. But from the middle, the maximum distance I can go has now decreased a lot if I want to go to the sidelines. So my attacking angles just aren't as abundant. But also, this allows your team to get back into position. So just imagine, once again, I've been pulled off to the side of the court. If I try to hit a shot just right over the net here, then if this guy goes cross court, my partner has the entirety of this court to cover all by himself. Instead, what I should do, if I'm pulled out wide, just hit a nice little drop right over the middle of the net, and that gives me time to, number one, get back into position, but then number two, the available angles that they have are not quite as threatening. In fact, I think a good rule of thumb is that literally every shot you hit on the pickleball court should by default be aimed at the middle of the net. Now, of course, if you see a big open gap, you're going to want to take that. You want to move people around and you want to aim at people's backhands. But if you don't see a better option, then your default option that's completely brainless and really effective is always hit to the middle of the court, right over the net.
The next game-changing advice that we've received comes during the return. There's something wrong I was doing the entire time, and this is exactly what I needed to fix. Let me explain. We've emphasized in a lot of our videos that your goal after the return is to make your way up to the kitchen line. But there's one piece of advice I want you to focus on first before you even think about the kitchen line. And this is something I needed to work on for myself. I can't get up to the kitchen line if I don't first focus on hitting my return in above all else. In pickleball, the most common way to lose points in the entire game is your serve and on your return. Those two shots lose the majority of pickleball points in every single match. So our goal as players should be to execute those shots perfectly. That way we never give up points that we shouldn't be losing. The return is key for that reason. So the simple advice I want to give you is, instead of thinking about just, oh, I need to get to the kitchen line as fast as possible, and you start rushing your return and you hit it poorly because you're so focused on getting yourself established at the very start of the point, instead, take a breath and think for a second. My goal is to hit this return well and respond to the serve that's coming towards me. Then, after you let yourself process that shot, you can start to allow yourself to consider what should be coming next, which is the kitchen line. But first and foremost, we need to make our return in. There's a couple simple ways I like to make sure that my returns go in more often. First, the big problem I see players make is they stand right on this white line because it kind of feels like a natural standing point. It's off the court. It just kind of feels natural to hang out here on the return. But when you start to work your way up to the advanced levels, players are going to hit better serves, and better serves often mean deeper serves, so they place the ball in this area. The easiest counter is to buy yourself more time. Step back on your returns, because worst case, they hit it deep, and you're already prepared to give yourself a bit more time and make better contact on the ball. But best case, they hit it short like usual, and you're able to use your forward momentum to make contacts with the ball, and you're already up at the kitchen line. There's no reason not to buy yourself extra time by standing off of the baseline. One thing players don't keep in mind is that it's so much easier to make contact with the ball when your momentum is going forward than it is when your momentum is going backwards. There's kind of a thing we say in pickleball, never backstep into the ball if you can help it, because when you're stepping off of your back foot, it's very difficult to time swings, whereas if the ball's in front of us, it's much easier to use our forward momentum and work our way forward. So simply backing off helps a lot with that. Next thing, just like we talked about with the last tip, your aim target should be very simple. We're aiming relatively deep and towards the middle. The middle is actually really optimal for returns because it usually makes our opponents guess and think about who should be taking this ball. Maybe the forehand guy wants to take it, maybe the backhand. This kind of creates miscommunication. It's a great option. And also, of course, it is the biggest margin of error on the court. You can miss left, you can miss right, and it still goes in. So this is the optimal area if you want to focus on one thing. Make sure your returns go in and aim for that deep middle of the court.
A huge factor that changed my game is working on footwork. This is the number one thing you can do that will make the rest of your game easier. The first thing we need to talk about is our footwork as we move forward into the court. I'm sure you ran into this problem. You've hit a nice shot, now you're approaching the midcourt, and then you're moving forward as someone hits a ball to you. You go to hit it, and then you hit it into the net. The reason this happens is because you have so much momentum going forward that it's really difficult to control your shots. It's crucial to remember that getting from here all the way up to the kitchen line is a marathon, not a sprint. So you need to be working your way up rather than just sprinting up there. In order to do this, you have to unlock the split step. Now, the split step is something that if you play tennis, you already know, but if you're like me and pickleball was your first racket sport, this is really important. Basically, all it is that whenever your opponent is about to hit the ball, you want to have your feet spread out in an athletic position, have your momentum stalled, and be bending your knees. This way you can move in any direction, left or right, depending on what the shot coming at you is. Now, to do this, it's really important that you start the motion of your split step before your opponent starts making contact with the ball. Because getting into this position takes a little bit of time, if you wait until they hit the ball, then you'll still be moving as you're taking your split step. For me personally, I like to take one step and then put my other one out wide. It's really natural and I can get down to a split step easily. But some players, if you're more athletic, you can even jump into a split step anywhere on the court and then kind of progress like this. It's a little bit faster, but it's just a harder technique to master. Now, once you're in this split step position and you want to move in any direction, it's important that you could just start moving without taking like a gather step. So if I wanted to move forward, I wouldn't want to like take my foot back here and then go forward. I would just want to start moving forward. That way I don't waste any time. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here at the kitchen line as well, when you're wanting to stay balanced in a dink rally. So this is the second place where I see the most errors happen. And it happens most often when you're trying to move laterally at the kitchen line, but it also happens whenever you're trying to move back. So what it is you're standing like this, someone hits a dink to your side, and you step over and then you take your other foot and then you try to make contact with the ball. For some reason, people think this feels natural, but the entire time you're off balance. Instead, what you should do, take your outside foot, move it towards you so you're balanced, and then take your other step out. If you've ever watched an amateur versus a pro, this is the number one difference in their footwork. Amateurs move like this, pros move like this. right? They're balanced the entire time. And the same thing applies when you're moving backwards. Rather than taking one big step and then gathering, you want to take this balanced step and then hit and then come back forward.
The next most important thing that we wish we would have learned sooner is that just because we now know how to ATP does not mean every single wide dink is ATP-able. The problem with ATPs, or in other words, around the post shots, is that they're actually really flashy and really fun to hit. So as we get into that intermediate level, maybe even a little bit into advanced, we start to learn what ATPs are and we go for them as much as we can. Because ATPs actually do have an incredible strong point. If you can prove to your opponent that you're hunting for them or know how to hit them, it takes away an out wide dink as a shot option from them almost all the time. Because the moment the ball starts bouncing wide, your opponent now knows, oh shoot, I may have left them an opportunity to hit around the post and basically end the point outright. That's why ATPs are so strong. They force your opponent to hit towards the middle of the kitchen much more often. But the issue is that once we learn ATPs, we get hungry for them all the time and go for the wrong balls. So most intermediate players miss much more ATPs than they actually complete. And that's a problem. So we need to know exactly what to look for and change our habits around seeking that shot out. And here's a couple tips that will help you execute them at the right time. The first problem we see with ATPs is people going for them when the ball lands deep in the kitchen. So if your opponent hits an out wide dink and they hit it deep into the kitchen, meaning kind of in this back half rather than this front half of the kitchen, this actually is less likely to become an ATP angle because when they hit deep, your angle and margin shrink substantially. The actual balls you want to be looking for an ATP are when your opponent hits shallow into the kitchen, because at that same angle, if they hit shallow, your angle for an ATP is much wider and you're much more likely to actually complete the shot and have some torque to work with to actually hit the ATP. Let me show you what that looks like a little bit more up close. To show you what I mean in a bit more detail, look how easy it is to hit an ATP when we're close to the post and the net, versus when I start to back up, this angle shrinks substantially. That's why we're always hunting for dinks that are closer to the net rather than deep. The next key indicator that a ball is capable of hitting an ATP on is when the ball has topspin. We're not looking for flat shots, we're looking for topspin for a specific reason. When an opponent adds topspin to their shot, the ball is going to be spinning, and then when it hits the ground, it will kick out even farther after it makes contact with the ground. That means if we're hunting for an ATP and the ball has topspin, it's going to hit the ground here and then bounce out even wider, giving us a much better option to actually hit the ATP. Whereas if it were a flat ball instead, and they didn't seem to roll the shot, the ball is not going to bounce as far out wide, meaning we're much more likely to actually just hit into the net instead. So hunt for topspin specifically as well. And the final thing we're hunting for, of course, this should be obvious, is a dink that is out wide. We never want to take too middle of a dink. We've got to be looking for topspin, out wide, and shallow. When you see all those three things, that's when we can go for the ATP. But this still leaves a question on the table. What do we do if we don't think the shot qualifies? What's the best response we should be doing instead? This is going to shock you, but we're going to suggest go middle. We talked about it the entire video, and it's still the optimal option, especially when you're pulled out wide. You've got much more margin to hit over a shallower net when you're going back middle to reset the point. And on top of that, you have a lot of cross-court space to work with. If you're unsure that you're able to hit ATP, just dink middle, reset the point, and make sure your footwork, like we talked about most recently, is strong enough to retreat back middle and stay in the rally long. You'll win way more points hunting for the right ATPs and instead going for middle when they don't qualify. It's that simple.
Our final game-changing tip is that the ready position is out in front of you. So for the majority of shots in pickleball, keeping the ball in front of you allows you to see the ball better because it's in your field of view the entire time. When you let your paddle drift to the side of you, it's much harder to focus on the ball and the paddle at the same time, and you don't know where both of them are in space. So for shots like dinks or rolls or drops, you want to have your paddle in front of you. That way you can clearly see where the ball is and you can see where your paddle is and make perfect contact every time. But it also has another benefit, which is keeping the paddle out in front of you prevents you from taking these really big strokes. And when we're in a hands battle or just a kitchen exchange, having a really big stroke is going to mean that you have less time to react to the ball that's coming back to you. So instead, if you have this paddle out in front of you, you can easily just hit shots that are small with not a lot of wrist movement, mainly from your shoulders. And then you'll be able to respond to the shot that comes back to you because you're always in that ready position. Another reason is that keeping your paddle out in front of you keeps you engaged in the rally. It's really easy to become lazy in a standard dinking rally because, I mean, it is pretty boring just hitting a little shot over the net over and over again. And so getting lazy is going to mean that you're not ready whenever your opponent speeds the ball up at you. Instead, if you can keep your paddle out in front of you, just having this in front of you makes the rest of your body so much more attuned to what's going on. So that way you'll be able to respond no matter what comes your way. And finally, keeping your ready position out in front of you takes time away from your opponent, meaning that if they're hitting a ball to me and my ready position is out here at the side, I'm probably going to have to take a step back and then make contact with this ball. Instead though, if I was out here in the ready position and they hit that same exact shot, I can take it in front. And now the time that they have to respond to my shot has been severely diminished, meaning that if they had a large stroke, they'd be in a lot of trouble right now.
Now you know these 7 things that we wish we would have known when we started pickleball. So if you liked our content, go ahead and subscribe for us. It actually helps us out a lot. And maybe consider watching this video next. It's gonna make you even better. Yeah, he's making it really obvious. It's that one.